So I mentioned in the last video, but we set 6 of our duck eggs from our pair of ducks in our incubator, and unfortunately when I brought the incubator up from the cellar where it had been for over 3 weeks, up for the last kind of couple of days when they were going to hatch, our incubator didn't adjust back down in time the temperature, so it kind of flared the temperature up by a few degrees, and unfortunately what that meant is that 5 of the 6 eggs didn't hatch. The one that did hatch had already pipped. It had already got its beak through the shell slightly, so I think that's the only thing that I can think of that has managed to save that one. But it got a bit stuck in the shell and it kind of stalled basically through hatching, so I would never recommend doing it, but in the odd occasion sometimes you need to help them out, and that's what I did there. So here's a little bit of iPhone footage from that duckling hatching. So I'd never ever suggest helping a chick or a duckling hatch, because ideally you want them to do it themselves, because there's loads of little blood vessels in here in the membrane, and if they hatch too quickly or if you help them out, then they can bleed, and the membrane can dry out as well on them and they can get stuck. So it's better for them to actually use their energy and get out. But there was a chance that this guy was damaged by the temperature problem as well, and he's been like this for about 24 hours, so it looks like he's done most of his absorbing of the yolk and the blood vessels. Hello. Some quick check in that shell. It looks like he's absorbed everything, so okay, we'll put him back in now. So then you're left with the dilemma that you've got one single duckling on its own, and I don't really want endless amounts of ducklings here. They are much messier to rear than chicks, so I decided I'd just get a few day-old chicks or similar age chicks to put with it. So it had a day on its own, but after that I managed to track down someone with 3 chicks left, and then funnily enough it was the day I picked up the van. I dropped in somewhere en route at 9 PM, which she assured me was okay, and I dropped in and picked up these chicks. So here's the duckling and the first chicks that I mentioned. They're already having their heat off during the day, because it's quite warm in the garage with the sun on the roof. So as with all poultry, they tend to grow quicker than you think, and they've already been kind of growing out of their box, their little brooder. So I've moved their heat lamp over to this poultry crate, which is absolutely fine for them. And as you can see, there's the 3 chicks in there with the duckling, and it's not ideal to mix species like this, but they're perfectly fine for now, and I'd rather they had company than raise a solitary duckling. So the girls have already had these guys imprint onto them. They spent the first week of their life in the kitchen, so that they had daily cuddles and would follow them around the kitchen. So they're all pretty tame. So this is the duckling we hatched. Hard to tell whether it's a boy or girl yet. As soon as they let out a quack, like the deeper quack, you know it's a girl. But that's normally the quickest with this breed, the quickest way to work out, because they tend to quack before they feather up. But if they are a girl, they'll feather up kind of a peachy colour, whereas the boys have a grey head. So there is quite an easy way of telling the difference with Saxonies. Anyway, so that is our solitary duckling, and what I did is picked up some chicks that will probably be of use to us. So there's no point in me just grabbing some companion chicks for no reason, so I picked up some decent egg-laying birds, and they're purebreds as well, and I try and stay away from the hybrids. That's a different topic to go into, but there's a lot of ethical and moral issues with hybrid birds, especially if you're buying sexed birds, because it's all well and good being able to guarantee that they're female, but the boys have had to go somewhere, and that somewhere's not where they want to be. And then these ones here are they're bred from leg bars, so although they're a bit of a crossbreed, they are blue egg layer, so it's a bit of interest to have different colour eggs in the kitchen. and that's why, well, I didn't really have much choice, but out of the few breeds that she had, they're the ones I grabbed. But like I said, they'll grow up as one happy family for now. But whilst I was there, I also picked up some others. So as you might know, in our effort to be a little bit more self-sufficient here, even though we've got just the garden, no great acreage, when I've hatched out the birds that we've got in the garden, I stick to dual purpose breeds. That means you hatch out all your chicks, and even if they're boys, they still have a purpose. They can be reared to a decent size and have a decent length of innings out in the garden, and then we have those for the meat and the girls for the egg layers. So as soon as you start using hybrid birds, like that are just bred for egg laying, the boys are a waste product, a little bit like the dairy industry. So without going into too much detail into the ethics of it in this video, that's why I try and stick to the pure breeds. Anyway, going against that slightly, I'm going to show you a little experiment I've got going on, which is a hybrid breed, which is a meat hybrid breed. But basically they're a very industrial bred bird, and I've read a lot about them and I've heard a lot about them, and I really wanted to keep some and do a batch just so I've got a better understanding of what they are. I would much prefer to use a slower growing bird, ideally a dual purpose breed. I thought I'd just mention that these are not normal chickens. They are so far gone from the pure breeds that are in the pen next to them that it's really kind of blowing my mind, to be honest. So these are the birds. They're just about off heat, and they are about a week older than the chicks I've just shown you. So it's not a direct comparison. There is about 10 days between these. I've got a 10-day-old and a about 20-day-old chick here, and the 20-day-old is the meat strain, okay? But just look at the size difference. It's just incredible. Like, there is no way that this bird will be anywhere near this size in 10 days time. And the weight, I mean, it must already be a pound in weight. They just eat, drink, sleep now and then. They're less active than the others. They don't scratch around as much. But what I'm trying to do is teach these birds to be chickens again. So it's more of an experiment for me. I want to see firstly if it's a worthwhile route to go, rearing our own meat from a financial point of view. And I think it is from the sums I've done, but I really want to do that and see the facts and figures. But really I'll kind of, we'll touch on it maybe in a couple of weeks when they're a bit bigger. I'm hoping that once they're feathered up, bizarrely their feathers don't seem to grow as big as their bodies, so they're very patchy. They seem to want to breed these guys so they're almost oven ready, I think. But anyway, I'm hoping that once they're feathered up, then we'll transfer them outside. They'll need to be sheltered. They're not hardy birds at all. But I want to start trying to teach them to be chickens again. So, you know, we'll get them lots of greens. We'll move them around a little bit, whether they're on the grass or in one of the pens. But we can give them loads of stuff from the veg garden and just really kind of give them a good couple of months out there.